Hello, Mr. Geislart here. This is going to be a video on solving equations. By now you should know how to do all this, but I'm just going to be giving you a little bit of a refresher on how to solve a couple of these equations. I'm also going to point out how most of your assignments are going to look and kind of what some of the things are in the questions and just want to point it out. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and do this very first one here. This very first one is negative 2x minus 5 equals 9. Now the first thing you're going to probably notice is that if you're going to do your assignment, these numbers are going to probably be different. That's because most of the assignments we do will have a random aspect to it, where at least one part will have a number that is randomly generated, so each student gets a different question. Not everyone will have the same one. It will happen from time to time that you will get the same as someone else, but maybe not the same as a different person. So let's just continue and solve this. So I'm going to go ahead and add 5 to both sides. So that will give me negative 2x is equal to 14. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and that gives me that x is equal to a negative 7. Now, all you would do then is go ahead and enter your answer in. Now, I have to enter it in a little bit differently, but my answer is going to be negative 7. And then go ahead and hit Submit Question. Now, it tells me that I got it right. So the first thing you're going to want to do is see if you get it right. And notice that this part here all turns green. If you get it wrong, and let's try that in just a second, then that won't turn green, it'll turn red. Well, what I'm going to do now is, let's say that I just want to practice a little bit more. I want a different question. What I can do is I can hit this button right here that says Get a Similar Question. Now, just a couple of things that I want to point out. Notice there's 3 things up here. It says I already got 1 point out of 1. If I try another question and I get it wrong, this will not change. It will still be 1 point out of 1. So it always takes your highest score on a question. So if you wanted to do a couple more for practice, you can do that and it won't affect your overall score. This 99 means you can get 99 more tries at doing this question. We tried once and we can try 99 more. This last one says, well, I'm only going to give you 3 different versions of the question. And there's a couple of reasons for that, but primarily you can get 3 different versions and get most of what you need out of that if you want to really get some extra help. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and I'm going to hit that button for Get a Similar Question. So now I got a similar one, but notice it's not exactly the same. And I'm going to have to get rid of that writing there. So now I got negative 2x plus 3 is equal to 11. So again, let's just solve that real quick. Negative 2x plus 3 is equal to 11. So if I subtract 3 from both sides, I get negative 2x is equal to 8. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and I get that x is equal to 6. Well, I know the answer is not really 6, but let's just go ahead and see what happens if I try and put 6 in for my answer. So if I put 6 and hit Submit Question, it tells me that I got it wrong. I get 0. If I look up here, I get 0 out of 1 points, and this whole thing here is red. Now, one other thing I want to point out, on a lot of questions, not every question, but a lot of questions, it'll say question help, and there might be a video, or it might say, instead of saying video, it might say read, and that will just be a written out explanation. So if you ever get stuck on a question or you're not sure what to do, you can always hit that question help. Now, that's not going to say that that question will necessarily answer your question completely, so if you do still have questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want to go to just a couple other questions that you might have some problems with or you might be struggling with a little bit. This is one of the questions. Whenever we have fractions and whole numbers, it always creates some problems. So the first thing I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to rewrite it as x minus 2 over 9 is equal to negative 6 over 1. In other words, I'm going to make it into a fraction that equals another fraction. This is called a proportion. In order to solve a proportion, we do something called cross multiplying, which means I'm going to take the 1 and I'm going to multiply it by the x minus 2. So I have 1 times x minus 2. Now be sure to put in the parentheses. In this particular case, it's not going to matter but make sure you always put in parentheses if you have a quantity that you're multiplying. The next thing I'm going to do is take 9 times negative 6. Well, 9 times negative 6 is going to give me a negative 54. So now I'm going to distribute this 1. Well, 1 times x is x, 1 times negative 2 is negative 2, is equal to a negative 54. So I'm going to add 2, and I add 2, and I get that x is equal to a negative 52. Now, I'm just going to check my answer here without writing it in. Now, you don't have this option, but since I'm a teacher, I get to look at the answers, and my answer is, in fact, negative 52. There's just one more of these, there's 2 more of these I want to take a look at. The next one is this one here. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I do want to get you started on it. It says that x over 3 plus 6 is equal to negative 9. There's several ways to do this, but I think the easiest way is to start off just by subtracting 6 from both sides. If I do that, I'm going to get x over 3 equals, and then negative 9 minus 6 is negative 15. Well, now we have a question that's exactly like the one from before, and that is we have a fraction that's equal to a fraction. So then you can just cross multiply and solve that one as well. And then the very last one I want to talk about is this one here. Now, this one looks really complicated to start, but it's actually not too bad. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by distributing this x by both of those. Now, if you don't remember, x times x is the same thing as saying x squared, plus x times 15 is 15x, equals x squared plus 16x plus 28. Well, now I'm combining my like terms. So I'm going to subtract x squared, So I get 15x is equal to 16x plus 28. So now I'm again going to combine my like terms. I just combined my x squareds and those canceled out. Now I'm going to combine my x's. So I'm going to subtract 16x, subtract 16x. So I have negative 1x is equal to 28. Well, I don't want x to be negative, so I'm going to divide by a negative 1 and divide by a negative 1. Remember, dividing by a negative just makes the answer the opposite. Since it's 28 started off as positive, it's now going to be negative 28. And then once again, I'll just come in here and I'm going to check our answer to make sure it's right, but you'll just hit that submit question and it'll tell you if it's right. In most homework assignments, you're going to have an unlimited number of tries. So if you get it wrong the first time, just keep trying and trying until you get it correct. So this is Mr. Geiselhart, and I hope that was helpful.